Eyewitness Newsmakers.
As the mayor continues with viewer questions, Your Honor, we had many on this very subject, so here is one that is an example. This from Francisco Hernandez of Los Angeles, who wants to know, would you be willing to reopen a racetrack on Terminal Island? This meaning car racing.
The answer is no, and I'll tell you why. The Board of Harbor Commissioners has already decided against it. The neighborhood councils in the area in Wilmington and San Pedro have all opined against it. The harbor operators don't support it. There's really no support in the community for it, and so I don't support it either.
Apparently there was a loss of a racetrack up north somewhere.
And remember, you're talking about a racetrack for people to, non-professionals, to be speeding their cars, or racing their cars, rather.
All right. So the answer right now is no.
No.
All right. Let's move on to another question. This from L.A. resident Charles De La Foyer, who asks, when running for mayor, you said you would improve traffic flow by adding more left turn arrows in left turn lanes. So far, I have yet to see that in areas where I drive, such as North Vermont and Melrose and Santa Monica Boulevard. What happened?
I love softballs. Who asked that question? We've quadrupled the number of left-hand turn signals since I've been mayor. That's the short answer. Quadrupled. We went from 104 years to 400.
And more on tap, or is it going to be
slowed down? I'd like to do more, but we're also looking at the historic budget deficits, but we've quadrupled them.
Let's talk about money in another subject, this race to the top money. Now that the governor has signed the legislation approved by the legislature, $700 million might be coming to California. It might be eligible for some of that money. Where does L.A. fit into that? Where do your schools fit into that? And is it possible? Well,
I stood with the governor, and I stood with the legislature, Speaker Bass and the pro tem Steinberg in support. We led the effort of the big city mayors who all got behind this effort. We all signed on. 9 of the 10 big city mayors signed on in support of this legislation. Look, there's $4.3 billion in federal monies that could come to school districts that are innovating, reforming, that are holding teachers accountable, that are empowering parents, that are engaging in reform. And the fact is, we've got to get on the train. And I've been saying for the longest time here in LA Unified that we're committed to that. And so I'm excited that the legislature finally passed that legislation. I'm going to aggressively try to seek money on behalf of LAUSD so that we could qualify on behalf of my schools. You know, a lot has been said about my partnership schools, but one thing I'm very proud to share after one short year, and that is that our API scores were higher than the state average, higher than the LAUSD. 8 out of 10 schools improved in reading, 9 in math, 9 out of 10 schools in reading. We are moving forward, and we want to expand what we're doing in our schools to every school in LAUSD.
Well, some of the ideas, though, that have to be espoused by this are not so popular with the unions, such as teachers will be more accountable, as you said, the younger teachers, especially the newer teachers, and also parents who don't like a school will have more leeway in getting their children out of that school and moving them elsewhere.
The parent trigger, that's right. And they'll be able to vote. When a school's been failing, they'll be able to vote on whether or not we need to change the operator, on whether or not we need to change the status quo. And look, we can't continue. I went to public schools, as you did, when we had the best public schools in the country. You know, I went to Catholic school as well, as you know, but I also went to public schools, and that's when California was leading the nation. We're at the bottom now, and we've got to stop making excuses for that. And part of why I said I want to stay, I want another 4 years, or I want to finish my term as mayor, is I want to finish this job. I believe in this school reform effort, and I believe that mayors need to lead the way. And the fact that we're aligned with our school district making some of these changes is good, but I'm glad the state is also going to join us.
And now, briefly, too, teachers want to get on board with this, and they're forming groups that might be able to...
And that's great. That's important. Those teacher initiatives, those collaboratives are critical. They can be union. I'm totally supportive of that, but we all got to be accountable.
Let's try to get a couple more questions in. This one, let's go to Robert Millett of Sherman Oaks, who asks, I just participated in GM's Project Driveway program, getting to drive a hydrogen fuel cell-powered car for 2 months. I hear that GM is now considering moving the project to fleets. What are the chances of the city being one of those test fleets?
Well, we already are. And as you know, we announced about 2 months ago that Los Angeles will be getting electric car ready by 2011 in a year. We're going to upgrade the 400 current power stations that we have around the region, working with Southern California Edison, the Department of Water and Power. We're going to upgrade them to national standards, build another 100, incentivize in-home storage, because we want to be ready for electric vehicles, and we're also going to participate in hydrogen as well, though that's farther down. That's not as far along.
Let me get one more viewer question in this brief, because I'd also like to talk about the census, where we were going earlier in this program. Doreen Haywood of Inglewood, who asked this, which is great for the new year: what types of things can the citizens of LA do individually or collectively to make significant and sustained improvements?
Oh, thank you, Doreen, for that question. I think every one of us have to acknowledge, particularly in these tough budget times when so many people are out of work, that we all have a responsibility to volunteer at a pantry, to bring food to the homeless, working with shelters, to do what we can to mentor a child, to plant a tree, to get involved, to roll up our sleeves and be a part of the community.
And in our last 10 seconds, to get more involved in the census count as well?
Absolutely, and to get more involved in the census count, it's critical. We lost $200 million 10 years ago as a result of not having an accurate census, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen again.
All right, Your Honor, we'll see you next month. Thank you for joining us this week.
Look forward to it.
All right. We will have more coming up right after this.